Good evening, everyone. So, today we are going for science after long, right? Science, and it is chapter 10. What is it? Respiration in organisms. So, when we talk about organisms, means what? All the living organisms. And when we talk about respiration, respiration means, when I talk about respiration, one word comes in my mind, that is means a kind of activity which comes in our mind, and it is inhale and exhale. Right, it is absolutely correct. What is respiration? Respiration is actually the inhaling and exhaling of the gases, of air. We know very well that when we talk about air, air is important, right? Air is important. Generally we know, means when you learnt about I think chapter 3, it was digestion. So digestion is there, right? Means whatever the food we eat, we use to digest it with the help of a number of organisms, enzymes which are available in your liver. The same way, the way you are having liver, the same way your one internal body part is lungs. And when we talk about respiration, we are basically talking about the processing of lungs, the entire respiratory system. Okay, so comes here, we are going for few terms first. So what are those few terms? Let's talk about it. The first, as I talked about digestion. So when we are talking about digestion, so let me tell you that the food, whenever the food is breaking down, how can digestion be there? The food breaks down. And why the food breaks down? So that it will provide us energy. But how it happens? Sometimes it happens because of the enzymes. Sometimes it happens because of oxygen. Sometimes it happens without oxygen as well. So first we'll talk about what is it called. Let's see. We'll go for first the cellular respiration. This is the first kind of respiration. It is known as cellular respiration. What is that? The process of breakdown of food in the cell with the release of energy. With the release of energy. Okay, that's known as cellular respiration. Respiration of food, breakdown of food in the cell with the release of energy is known as cellular respiration. And now, what is this here? Where does the cellular respiration go on, or this process happen? It happens in the cells of all the organisms. All the organisms are having their cells inside the body, and it occurs. Cellular respiration happens in cell. Remember, cellular respiration happens in the cells of the organism. Now, we'll go for aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration. What is that? Actually, in this chapter, we'll talk about it in detail. What is this aerobic respiration? So, when we talk about aerobic respiration, we basically talk about the respiration means when the food, means the breakdown of food, or glucose you can say, the breakdown of glucose occurs with the use of oxygen. So, what is aerobic respiration? Aerobic respiration is actually with the use of oxygen. Breakdown of glucose with the use of oxygen. Glucose breaks down with the use of oxygen. That is known as aerobic respiration. Okay, it breaks down, aerobic respiration. Fine. So what did we get to know? Breakdown of glucose with the use of oxygen is called aerobic respiration, right? When it is happening because of oxygen, it is known as aerobic. But when it is happening, means when the food is breaking down and without the help of oxygen, without using oxygen, it's called anaerobic. It is called anaerobic respiration. Just let me know one thing. Are you people getting it? Is the picture completely clear to you? I hope yes. Is it completely clear to you? Yes or no? Just let me know. Yeah, very good. So it's completely coming clear. So now I get that is anaerobic respiration. So how many kinds of respiration we went through? Cellular respiration, which is happening in the cells of all the organisms. Second is aerobic respiration. It's happening with the use of oxygen. Anaerobic respiration, it is happening without oxygen. So three kinds of respiration we went through, right? Now, as it is that, and I told you earlier also that whenever we are talking about biology, means science, biology and chemistry is always there, right? Why biology? Because here we are talking about the human body parts. So it's a part of biology. But when we find the chemical changes, the chemical reaction in the body, that is actually the part of chemistry. So what we find here, when this is glucose, glucose means the kind of energy, the kind of food which breaks down in the smaller, in the easier part, you can say, that's known as glucose. When the glucose in the presence of oxygen breaks down, means when we are talking about aerobic respiration, glucose going through aerobic respiration, what it releases? It releases carbon dioxide, water and energy. We get the energy to work, we get water, that you know, means our body gets water also from different kind of food item, and again we are getting carbon dioxide which releases from our body. Coming to the next one, anaerobic. So what happens when there is no oxygen, right? So what is anaerobic? When there is glucose only, but it is happening without oxygen, in the absence of oxygen. So when there is presence of oxygen, it releases carbon dioxide, water and energy. But when there is no oxygen, what releases? It releases alcohol, carbon dioxide and energy. Means no water. Instead of water, rest all the things are same. You just see, if it is, let me take you down somewhat, right? You just see here, when you go for this, you just find here. When it is in the presence of oxygen, means aerobic respiration, it releases carbon dioxide, water and energy, right? When it is in the absence of oxygen, it releases carbon dioxide and energy, which is common here. But presence of water, presence of oxygen, water, and presence of absence of oxygen, it releases alcohol, right? Now, when we talk about the next topic, that is what is respiration, we find breathing. You just, when you're inhaling, means when you're taking in air, this is known as inhalation. Inhalation, and when you just release it, it is called, it is caused exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. When you inhale, when you breathe in, it's called inhalation, and when you breathe out, it is called exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. So that we need to focus on. Okay. So inhalation, when your oxygen, when you take in oxygen in your body, this is called inhalation, and after some time you exhale also. That is called exhalation. Now the matter comes, what happens actually? When you go for this inhalation and exhalation, we'll just go for a very basic thing. What is actually required for inhalation? Means which body part is required here. So you just see, whenever you inhale, this part with this nostrils, nostril means the hole in your nose, that's known as nostril. So what you find, that air enters from the nostril. Sometimes when you inhale from your mouth also. Why? Because sometimes you are in need of that. When it is very less and you find the person is inhaling from air mouth also, but it's a wrong process. We should always inhale from the air, from the means we should or we always actually inhale from our nostril only. So what happens when you inhale? You just take a minute. You may take this minute in a during the class also right now. So what you need to do here, just close your eyes and keep your hands on your abdomen. Okay, just do with me. Do with me right now. Eyes closed, whatever I say, do it now. And keep both of your hand or a single hand only near to your abdomen. Okay, upper, between the chest and the abdomen, you just keep it. Now you see, when you inhale, means take in oxygen, when you breathe in, what do you feel? The chest portion comes out. The chest portion comes out and the abdomen portion goes in. It happens. When you inhale, you find that air goes from here, from the nostril, it goes directly reaches to the lungs, and what happens, this exhale and inhale, in that process we find actually when you inhale, the chest portion, actually I'll let you know exactly what the name it has. So the chest portion comes up, outward or upward, and the belly portion goes down. But actually it's not the belly portion, actually it's not the chest portion. Okay, so why don't I take you directly over there? So let's go for this one. Here, yeah, let's go for this one. What happens when you are, like we are first talking about the exhalation and inhalation, means the entire respiration in a human being. First we'll talk about the respiration in a human being, then we'll talk about somebody else, right? Then we'll talk about somebody else here. So let's go for it. What you find, this is your nasal passage, means here the nostril, and after that comes the nasal passes. What happened? From here, you just see it reaches from the windpipe. This is actually known as windpipe, which is having these names as well. So it reaches from the windpipes to the lungs part. It reaches over here. When the air reaches, when the oxygen comes inside, you inhale, and what happens, the chest part comes outward. Chest part comes outward, and what part goes in? So you just see here, when you go for it, the pink portion, which is the muscular portion, the muscles, you can see the flesh, the muscle, that part you can see the pink portion here. It's actually the lungs, and you can see the skeleton part, the hard portion. You can see the hard portion which is covering it, or you can say it is protecting it. That is known as rib cage. It's protecting it and it is known as rib cage. Okay, so when you go for rib cage, what do you find? When you go for rib cage, what do you find here? So you find this is the lungs which is being protected by actually the rib cage. We find. And what is it here? What do you think? This side and this side, it is different? Not at all. Not at all different. This is the outer portion, which is the rib, which is protecting this lungs, and inside the lungs we are having these kind of cells here. So this is the outer portion. From outside, how does it look? From inside, how the lungs look like. And here you just find there is one more thing which is very important, that is known as diaphragm. It's known as diaphragm. And what is this? This entire portion which is providing the base to the lungs and the ribs. Portion which is providing the base to the lungs is actually, you can see here, this is the base which is providing the base to the lungs. Else you can find the lungs is just like hanging, but it's not hanging here. This diaphragm is actually, you can see this diaphragm is actually providing a support, or you can say the base to the lungs, because the lungs are completely fleshy and it needs a support. So from downside, diaphragm is there which is giving a support to it, and from outside we are having the ribs which is protecting our lungs. If you just touch your lungs, you find it is having very hard portion. What that hard portion is? That particular hard portion is actually ribs, and inside portion is lung, and this ribs are actually protecting the lungs. Okay, so now I told you about the different parts, the diaphragms, lungs, ribs, then the windpipe, then nozzle passage, everything we talk about. Now we will go through the actual respiratory system. What happens, how it happens. So let's see what happens whenever, means the time, what happens whenever you are breathing, when you breathe in, what happens? It is nose having the nostril. From the nasal passes, it reaches to the nasal cavity, and from that through the windpipe, from the windpipe it reaches. Here you see, first it reaches from the nostril into the nasal cavity, and from the nasal cavity it reaches to our lungs. How? Through the windpipes. From the windpipe. This is nose, nostril, nasal passage, and this is called nasal cavity. Inside nasal cavity. From that it reaches to the windpipe. This is called the pipe, and from the windpipe it reaches to the entire lungs. Now you know that it is available, it is present. This lungs are available actually in the chest cavity, which is also you can see it is covered by the ribs on the sides. On both the sides it is covered by ribs. Why ribs? Because ribs are the hard portion which is actually protecting these lungs from any kind of damage. Else you just see, if you are sleeping and the body is not having the ribs, what will happen? The lungs will also get pressed. But as the ribs are there, it is protecting us. So what happens from the nasal cavity, from the windpipe, it reaches to the lungs. When it reaches to the lungs, what you find? This cavity is surrounded by ribs on the sides, that's correct, and a large muscular sheet called diaphragm forms the floor of the chest. As I told you, from the floor of the chest. Okay, it is providing the floor of the chest cavity. Why? Just to give it a support. And here happens, it goes from there, it reaches to the lungs. We got to know nostril, okay, nasal passage, nostril, nasal passes, windpipe and lungs. Now, when it reaches to the lungs, what happens? You can see here, when it reaches to the lungs inside, oxygen reaches inside, what happens? It is here, you can see a number of nerves are there, the entire nerve system here. And it is actually connected to the entire body part, means from the head to the toes, it is completely connected. This oxygen reaches to the lungs, and from the lungs it reaches to the different body parts of your body, different body parts through the nerves. It reaches to different body parts. It reaches, and wherever, even it reaches to the different body parts, it releases, it is having oxygen, and it releases, it does the function, and again it comes back. Again it comes back, and from another nostril it comes out. This is the entire process. So what happens here? When you go for this, you just find here. Let me explain you here. During inhalation, when you inhale, ribs move up and outward and diaphragm moves down. As I told you, keep your hand near to your belly. When you do that, the chest portion, the down chest portion, which is actually known as diaphragm, it goes down, it moves down, and the chest portion, which is actually now filled with oxygen, it comes out. It comes out, it comes outward. The movement increases space in your chest cavity and air rushes into the lungs. And the entire air reaches to your lungs. Now, lungs get filled with air. And what happens during the exhalation? During the exhalation, rib moves down and this diaphragm goes up and it releases, it pressures, it puts pressure on it and it comes out. That is called exhalation. Means diaphragm comes back to its position again. Okay. This is the entire process which goes on. Now let me tell you what happens actually. This is the entire process which goes on. One more thing I wanted to tell you. Here you can see air is drawn in. Air is drawn in. What happens here? You just see, this is windpipe from which it enters. The way it enters, this one becomes expand, it increases, it comes outward. You can see it comes outward, and the diaphragms move down. This is diaphragm which moves down. But at the time of exhale, what happens? This goes down, it moves back up, and the air forced out. This is the way it comes and goes. It reaches to different part within a second. It reaches to different parts with the help of the nerves, reaches to different parts, provides oxygen to mind and body, each and every part, and within a second it goes back also. This is the actual process of respiration in human mind, in the human body, that you can see. Now we will go for the another kind of respiration. Means, as we got to know respiration in human beings, nostril, nasal pass, windpipe, lungs, and from the lungs different parts of the body. Again, in between only it comes outward, diaphragms goes down, okay, it goes down, and it pressures, air fills, reaches to different part of the body, again comes back, and it is the time the lungs goes down, rib goes down, diaphragm goes up, and it forces and it comes out. This is the basic concept. And let me tell you, it's not only the process which is being done only and only in the human beings. It is being done in other parts too, means other animals too. Means the way the respiration we have the respiratory system we had, the human beings has, the same kind of respiration is there in other animals too, but not in all. Remember, in others and other animals too, but not in all the animals, not in all the insects. Here I just want to let you know how much oxygen we take. There are few things I need to mention. You might have observed that your nostril is having some hair, very small hair lines are there, right? For what reason they are? The reason is, actually they works like a stainer. Why stainer? When you see the milk is there with the malai and you don't want to take malai, so what you use? You take the stainer, the milk goes inside and the entire malai is out, or entire dirt is out and the entire milk is down, right? This is the basic concept. What happens? The air which we breathe in is also coming, is actually consisting with smog, smoke and all. When you inhale, the dirt particles also enter. And this time the hair of your nose, of your nostril, works like a stainer. It stops all the dirt parts. Sometimes you may have a feeling that, oh my god, it's very, nostril has become very dirty, or sometimes you feel very uncomfortable. It happens. Why? Because the entire nose nostril part becomes dirty because of dusty air. And it is actually happening in the month of spring season, when the weather is very dusty and all. The time when the weather is very dirty is happen. It happens that time. Sometimes even you sneeze also. Why? When the dirt particles, sometimes dirt particles reaches to your near to your nasal passage. Means it removes, it pass through the nostril and it reaches to your nasal passage. It really creates a discomfort, uncomfort, and you sneeze. And that dust particle comes out even. This particle comes out. So it is always advisable, whenever you feel that you are sneezing or about to sneeze, keep your mouth, keep your hand or a hanky, right? First thing, why do you sneeze? You got to know. Why do we have the hair in the nostril? That also you got to know. Now coming to the part, now the air which entered, is it having 100% oxygen or not? That we need to think of. Either it has 100% oxygen or not. So we just check here. Actually, whenever we inhale, we find only 21% of oxygen. So the percentage of oxygen and carbon dioxide in inhaled and exhaled air, it's not 100%. its inhaled air, when you find, it is 21% oxygen and 0.04% carbon dioxide. Where even when you exhale, it is 16.4% oxygen and 4.4% carbon dioxide comes out. Means what you want to say? Means undoubtedly I want to say that the 21% of oxygen we inhale, actually we get only very least amount, because 16% of oxygen comes out actually. We are left with only 4 or 5% of oxygen, which our body, which our lungs absorb. That's why it is always told that whenever you are breathing, you should do some kind of breathing exercise. Why? So that you will get more amount of oxygen. But you also know it is a very regular process. Sometimes you even don't know how to manage with it. You even don't know that you are respirating when you are inhaling and exhaling. You even don't know. So it happens. Now coming to the part, this one we learnt about the human beings. As I told, other animals also having such kind of a respiratory system. And what those animals are? They are elephants, lions, cows, goats, lizards, snake, birds. They all are having the same kind of lungs in their chest cavity like the human beings have. They also having like this only. But the insects don't have. As we have gone through a list of all that, you must see there is no name of any insect here. We have the name of animals here, the birds here, but never the name of insect. So remember, insects are having different kind of respiratory system. What they have? So let's talk about cockroach. So when you talk about this cockroach here, you just see cockroach is having some open portion by the side, means you have your left side and right side the same way. When you talk about the cockroach, it is having left side and right side, both the sides it is having some open portion. Okay, it's having some open portion. And what the name of that open portion is? Actually this open portion is known as spiracles. Cockroach side portion is open, that's known as spiracles. Okay, it's known as spiracles. And when it is the open portion, you can imagine it like the nose for them. Okay, means actually it is not called as nose, it is known as spiracles only, but the matter is it is only helping it to inhale and exhale. It is helping it to inhale and exhale. How? Through the spiracles only, the air, the oxygen comes in the body, and here there is something which is already there. Means we human beings and the animals have a number of parts, but this cockroach has only two parts which are very important. First, the open portion which is known as spiracles. Second is trachea. So what is this? Spiracle is the open portion through which the air comes in and goes back, means through which the air enters and it goes back. Air enters means oxygen enters and it goes back. For that, spiracle is used. Second is trach. So when we have a trachea, so what we find, what is trachea? Actually, trachea, you can see a number of pipes here. The way we are having the nervous system, the way we have the nerve system for the entire body, the same way cockroach is having trachea. It's having trachea means you can see the pipes, the system, the tubes. Even you can call it trachea, you can call it as air tube. It is either you can call it air tubes or you can use the perfect word trachea. What it has? The air inserts from spiracles, air enters from the spiracles and through the tracheas, as the tracheas is covered, connected to the entire body part of the cockroach. So from trachea it reaches to the entire body parts, and after that it goes back, it comes out from the spiracles only. So here in cockroaches we are having only two parts. What two parts? One part is spiracles, another part is trachea. Spiracles, two sides, open sides, both the sides open parts through which it enters and exits, through which it enters, the air enters means oxygen enters, it reaches to trachea because it's having the entire air pipe here, air tube here. With the help of this, oxygen reaches to the entire part of the cockroach, and again it moves back with the help of spiracles. This is actually happening in cockroach. Now we'll talk about earthworms. Have you seen earthworms? Really, it's very sticky. It's very sticky. Why? Is it having a kind of a respiratory system, the lungs and the nostril passage, or a nostril cavity, or like ribs, or diaphragms? No, it is not having, because earthworm is an insect, right? So it might have the spiracles or trachea like cockroach. No, it is not having that also. Why and what it has? Actually, if we touch any earthworm, we find it is very sticky. Why is it sticky? Because its skin is working like that. It's not having some special kind of or a special body part which is helping the earthworm to respirate, to breathe in or breathe out. It is working, it is doing respiration only and only with the help of its skin. With the help of its skin. Remember, earthworm is not having any special part, any special body part which is helping it to breathe in and breathe out. It is doing it with the help of skin only. Skin is having actually pores, a number of pores, and it is having a number of passage. You can say skin is having a number of passage and skin is having a number of pores. With the help of these pores only, the gases enter the body and provides it the same way it goes out. It goes out. So this is the way we find that, and even earthworm, along with the earthworm, frog is also having something, but it is having a pair of lungs. Frog is also having the skin. It is also having pair of lungs also, like human beings. So you can say frog has the respiratory system, or respiratory system, two kind of respiratory system. One is the lungs it has, another is the skin it has. So we got to know. Please let me know, do you have any doubt? Human being included with all these kind of animals, the same kind of respiratory system. Cockroach, only two parts, spiracles and trachea, which is helping it out. Third, having earthworm. Earthworm is having the skin which is helping it out. This actually we talked about. I'm just asking you people, do you have any doubt? Please let me know. Else we'll go for breathing underwater. Breathing underwater. We'll talk about it. Breathing underwater. Okay. Not getting any response. Please let me know. Okay, fine. Rest all. Rest all. No doubt. So now, as we talked about the insects like cockroach, or we talked about this earthworm and different kind of animals, as well as the human beings, they are living on the earth. But we also know that there are few living organisms which live underwater. They live underwater. Now, how is it possible that we know air is having oxygen, so we know that they can take water, they can take oxygen from that, we know. But what is the problem here? The animals or the living organisms which live in water, underwater, how do they respirate? So here we find, even it was the part of your chapter in class 6 only, when we talk about fish. So when you talk about fish, you just see here, fish are having the gills and they are breathing organs. Actually, gills are the breathing organs in fish, and with the help of this only, they are actually breathing. Okay, they are actually well supplied with water, blood vessels also, and for exchange of gases. So what we find, fish are having the gills first, and these gills are actually well connected with the blood vessels. So as fish inhales oxygen, yeah, correct, it inhales oxygen with the help of gills, and gills is directly connected to the blood vessels. It reaches to through the different blood vessels of the part of a fish, and it comes out from the gills only. So gills having only one part, that is means fish having only one part, that is gills, and with the help of gills it inhales and it is connected to the blood vessels. It is connected to the blood vessels, so it reaches to the different parts of the body of the fish, and again it exhales. Okay, so we talked about this also. What about the plants? Do they also respire? I don't know. Do they also respire? Undoubtedly, yes. Respiration is compulsory for plants also, because they are actually the organisms. But we know when they respire, we find they also take oxygen. Remember, when we go for photosynthesis, we know that the plants take carbon dioxide and make their food and exhale oxygen and release oxygen, not exhale, sorry, it releases oxygen, but it is the process of photosynthesis, right? But let me tell you, the plants also respire, but when? At the night time, because the entire daytime they are busy in photosynthesis, and the night time only they only do breathing. You can say night time only they do breathing. And what happens this time? It is always advisable, do never sleep under a tree at night. Why? Do never sleep under a tree at night. Why? Because night time is actually, and especially under a peepal tree, always it is told ना कि tree, पीपल का पेड़, बर का पेड़, रात को भूत आया, 12 बजे के बाद मत जाना पीपल के पेड़ के पास. Let me tell you, भूत भूत कुछ नहीं. The matter is, ऐसा लोगों को फीलिंग आती है क्या, कैसे भूत आया भाई, कैसे भूत आया. The matter is, actually it's not at all bhoot and all. The reality is, it is actually peepal tree and all the rest of the plants only. Daytime they are busy in photosynthesis, and night time they respire. Respiration process goes on at a night time. So daytime they are taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. It's very good. But at night time what happens? They are respiring, means they are doing respiration. And during respiration what happens? They take in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. So when somebody is sitting or sleeping under a tree, the person is inhaling oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. The tree above the person is also inhaling oxygen, exhaling carbon dioxide. There is the excess amount of carbon dioxide around and lack of oxygen that time. And the person gets some kind of issues, some kind of thing happen, which is completely natural. It is completely natural. And the person gets shake. The person gets scared of that there is a bhoot type something, ghost is something. It doesn't happen. It's happening in the plants. Respiration is also there. Now let's talk about how do they respire. So let's talk about the respiration, actual respiration. So what we find, they are having, the root cells also need oxygen to generate energy. Roots take up air from the air spaces present between the soil particles. How do they take? Plants also respire through the roots, and how they do? They take, means the soil is having different pores. Okay, soil is having the space presented between the soil particles. So it is the roots, and roots are actually taking the oxygen from the soil which is present in the soil particle, and it is taking from there. So it is having the roots there which is helping it out. So you can see here, these are the soil particles, and between, which is, you can see the yellow portion, it is all air, and in air oxygen is available. These are the root hairs. You can see this is root, and it is having the small particles of, these are called the root hairs. Okay, these root hairs are actually bound with the air, with soil, and soil is having the particles, and in between the particles are having air, and from that air actually the root hair absorbs oxygen. This is only the process of respiration in plants. Do you think that you have still any doubt? Let me have a quick recap of it. Let's just have a quick recap of it. Human beings are having what things? Human beings are having basic important things here. That nozzle, nozzle pass, nozzle cavity, then nozzle windpipe, this is rib, this is lung, this is lung, this is diaphragm, this is an entire one, and these are the nervous, entire nervous which is helping it to reach to different parts of the body. Now, when we talk about a cockroach, only two things are important. What two things? It's having, one is spiracles, another is trachea. Third thing, when we talk about the earthworm, it is having the skin. When we talk about frog, it's having the pair of lungs like human beings. As why not? You have a question, why frogs having a pair of lungs also? It can take from skin also. Actually, frog is actually a kind of animal, a kind of living organism which lives on water as well as kinds of system, respiratory system. Lungs outside means when it is there in this one, and the skin also. Now when we talk about the aquatic animals, so it's having fish, it's having gills, and gills are connected to the blood vessels. That. Now plants, it's having the root hair, and it is actually binding the soil. Soil is having the small pores, and it is having air, and this air is containing oxygen. It is being taken by them. It's done. Okay, so from my side the topic is over. If you have any query, please ask me, else we can end up the session. Fine, thank you so much. I hope there is no doubt at all. Thank you.